Oi, firstly, I gotta say big love to my General Nick Backerman for sponsoring around $50 in the Patreon. That was a big, massive thing there, so I appreciate that. Obviously, other man came through as well. Big love to you all for sponsoring me on the live stream. Now, this video right here, like I said, we've already done the live stream. The live stream is the raw reaction. My thoughts are kind of all over the place now. I was even thinking of jumping on and doing this video real quick, but you know what? After seeing what we've just seen there, I had to take a step back and really kind of console my thoughts for a few hours and bring you, man, a detailed analysis that you've been waiting for, yeah? It's like when you're cooking up that good white. If you want the good white, you have to chef it up good. You can't rush it, yeah? When you want good white, you have to cook it up goodly, yeah? Can't be rushing the process if you want the good white. Anyway, let's crack on with it then. The very bottom line here. I'll be honest. Me and Big John Fury, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet because, for example, I was half wrong in the AJ situation. But the AJ, what happened on December 7th and what happened on February 22nd are actually very similar. Yeah? The YB always bases his predictions not on how to win a fight, 12 rounds, and bore everyone to tears. I always base my strategy, my predictions, number one, based on a fighter's attributes and skills, and number two, on a given outcome. Now, on December 7th, my strategy, which everyone laughed at afterwards, oh, YB, ha ha ha, yeah, ha ha, AJ didn't stand. My strategy was number one, based on AJ's attributes, i.e. strong, powerful, he's more powerful than Ruiz, he's got better inside shots, etc, etc. But number two, the outcome, the stoppage, yeah? I combined AJ's attributes with my outcome. My outcome was different to theirs, a stoppage, and that's why it deviated. However, look at this Fury result. Once again, I applied Fury's attributes, 6'9", 275 pounds, 205 centimeters, and I did these videos 2 days. If any of you man who don't really know the channel, go and check my videos out over the last 2 days, 3 days. You'll see I've been saying exactly this. Tyson Fury, oh yes, Deontay Wilder, 6'9", 205 pounds of inside fightingness. Yeah, we heard that from Fury, the Fury of 2013, the Fury scared David Haye so bad. Fury and David Haye were meant to be fighting, and David Haye pulled out. David Haye saw what he did to Cunningham. David Haye he heard the venom in Fury's voice. It was dastardly, just dastardly, and he didn't want it. He jacked. David Haye realised, you know what, I'm a cruiserweight. I can't be dealing with this. And to be fair to David Haye, he saved himself having to go through what we had to witness Wilder going through tonight. That's what happens when a man, 270 pounds, strong and powerful, half with a cronk gym, only 7 weeks there, but even with them 7 weeks, did you see the difference in Fury's jab? I've always taken the Michael out of Fury's jab. How it's flicky, it's a backhand, he flicks it, he double flicks it. That's not hurting no one. Was he doing that tonight? No, and it's funny because once again, people say, oh, YB, you don't know boxing, oh, YB, why would a professional boxer listen to you? Well, it is interesting that when Fury was doing Ben Davidson's flicky jab and running around the place, he went 50-50 life and DEATH with Wilder. Many people, including myself, I thought he lost that fight on the basis that he had to peel himself off his back twice by doing that fluffy style and that flicky jab. What happens when he goes in there and he uses his attributes and he uses his gypsy heart? And these are all, you got to remember as well, the gypsy heart isn't just a quality in its own. That's an attribute that he possesses. It's the same thing when I talk about AJ's African heart. On December 7th, he did not engage his African heart. Bottom line. KSI against Logan Paul did, as an example. Chisora, as an example. Chisora in there with pick someone, with Dillian White. He engaged his African heart. Yeah, it didn't work out right for him, but the point is, these are all little things you can tap into. Tyson Fury tonight tapped into his gypsy heart. He has not done that for the last 7 years. It's been years since. It's been since Steve Cunningham. Steve Cunningham fight was the last time he actually turned that switch on. And this was the last time, 2020. You could see it in him. From the very start of the fight, he didn't come out scaling. Normally Fury comes out scaling the ring, feinting, and he's the one going around the edge. And like I said earlier in another video, the really ironic thing was Jay Diaz, and in the future I might do a video not trolling, but taking the Michael out of Jay Diaz, because Jay Diaz, Wilder's trainer, literally said in a build-up video this week, people don't realise Fury has to run around the edge of the ring, whilst Wilder only has to pivot 2 inches, and Wilder's got to do all this running, which makes him tired. Wilder's opponents, they all have to spend all their energy just avoiding him. All he has to do is marginally step round the ring, and it's true. When you hold the centre of the ring, it's your opponent who has to run around the edges. Think about AJ versus even AJ versus Ruiz, to be fair. Luckily enough, AJ was so super fit, so genetically so genetically elite, he didn't get tired. But look at Joe Parker versus AJ as an example. Joe Parker was the one scaling the ring. That's what we have to do. When someone chooses to hold the centre of the ring, the other person, they're the one who has to do all the work. What happened tonight? And that's Fury's game, traditionally. Well, not even traditionally. Since Peter Fury came along and Ben Davison, that's been Fury's game. Scaling the ring, nipping, tucking, and it's 50-50. Peeling himself off the canvas, and people calling that a box. And this is what I love. I love being able to actually visualize and explain what I'm talking about. People talk about boxing. People talked about Fury boxing Wilder's head off. Do you now understand why I refuse to say that? Tonight was Fury boxing Wilder's head off. Do you understand that? Please don't no one come to me no more and tell me about, that first fight was a boxing lesson. It was not a boxing lesson. Tonight was a boxing lesson. You can't just throw these terms around. It devalues the sport. It devalues what we want from these fighters. If Fury can go into a fight and perform like he did on December 1st, 2018, and all you lot gas him up telling him it was a boxing performance and it was a boxing this, that, the other, he thinks he's done it all. This is a performance we should all be praising him for, and rightly so, even me. And I've told you before, people who know me, my first love in boxing was actually Fury. And I've got tweets to prove it. You can go back on my Twitter. My first love was Fury, bottom line. How I fell out of love with him was because of the stuff that... Anyway, that's not the point. Today, let's focus on what happened today. The fact of the matter is, Fury went in there and he engaged the Gypsy. Not only that, though, everything was different. His tactics was different. He came in, marched straight forward, held the centre of the ring. And guess what? Wilder, for the first time in his career, people were saying, LDBC saying, there's something wrong with Wilder. I don't know why he's so tired. Number one, he came in 230. And I actually thought that would benefit Wilder, because I was expecting Wilder to man up, to buy into what he was saying. I was expecting Wilder to hold his feet and trade and throw his right hand, which is what he's used to doing. However, what happened was, essentially, Fury called Wilder's bluff, because when Wilder came in 230, he was expecting Fury to run around the edge of the ring. Now, it's easy to come in heavier and powerful when you're the one in the centre of the ring, taking little half steps round in a circle, whilst the other guy runs around the edge of the ring. That's what he was expecting to do. It's another thing when you come in 230 and you haven't trained to be scaling the ring. See what I mean? It's like the AJ performance. AJ on June 1st had not trained his cardiovascular system to scale the ring. However, he found himself with Andy Ruiz in the middle of it, holding the centre of the ring, and he found himself gassed because he hadn't trained his legs and whatnot to run around the edge of the ring, kind of thing. The point is, Wilder tonight came in expecting Fury to run around and found himself in front of a brick wall. And unfortunately for Wilder, all that talk of being about one face, one name, one champion, all that talk of Bronze Bomber, where was the Bronze Bomber? Because the Bronze Bomber would have been this. The Bronze Bomber would have been Wilder holding his feet with Fury in the centre of the ring and trading. That's not what we saw. That is not what we saw. We saw Wilder running for his life. So all that talk of Wilder being this, that, the other, oh, I'm anointed by God. You have to earn these things. When we talk about our heritages, when we talk about Fury's gypsy heritage, when we talk about African heritage, these spirits, these aren't just things you can't just say them, Wilder. You don't just get these. You have to earn them. You have to show them. Tonight, Fury showed them. He was the one on paper with less power, less speed, less athletic ability. Look at his body, look at his shape. He's not no athlete essentially. But what did he do? He dared to go in there and hold the centre of the ring. Over the athletic one. Over the more powerful one. There's spirit. Overcoming odds is spirit. Anyone can go in there against the old man Ortiz or Brazil when you've got the speed, etc, 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 and you've got all the attributes in your favour and knock someone out. That's not using no spirit. That's not using no heritage. As an example, Fury called Wilder's bluff and Wilder jacked tonight, and that really tells the whole story. Now, it's not to say. All I'm saying is this could have been a 50-50 fight. If Wilder had held his feet, it could have been who knows. It would have been who landed first, who landed the better shots. But as it happened, Wilder mentally was broken by Fury. And he found himself, like I predicted, he found himself like Steve Cunningham, scared of the big, heavy man. For the first time, and the thing is, mentally speaking, Wilder hadn't prepared for Fury to be throwing proper shots. You heard what Wilder was saying, pillow fist. Psychologically, he wasn't prepared for a war. He was prepared to go in there and tee off and have Fury feinting and snapping a little jab. Because Wilder's the one who spent 12 rounds in there with Fury. So he used that data and he assumed, you know what, Fury's going to do the same thing. Because you heard Wilder said it. Wilder said that Fury's a liar. Oh, Fury's lying about that. Fury knows he's not going to knock me out in the second round. And that's the problem there. He underestimated his opponent. He didn't think that Fury had changed. And to be honest, that there is really... Wilder doesn't really know game theory as such. Because if I was in Wilder's training team, do you know what I would have been telling him? Do you know what we would have been talking about? We would have been talking about the fact that... Wait there a minute, Wilder. You put Fury down twice in December 2018. Why is Fury so keen to take this rematch? Do you think he's so keen to take this rematch because he thinks he's going to come in here and maybe edge it again and maybe get knocked out twice again? Or do you think he's seen something in you? I.e., do you think he's going to come in and apply a different game plan? Wilder's team went straight over their head. They just thought naively, oh, you know what? Fury's just going to come in here again and be a target and be a heavy bag. And be a light-footed heavy bag for us to hit. That's what they thought. Instead, they came into a hard, stiff brick wall, and shots was literally bouncing off Fury. And I've on my Twitter at the Don YB, I posted out little clips. Fury was saying, at 240, 250, shots were hurting me. At 270, shots are bouncing off. Now, at that point, before the fight, we didn't know, but it's true. Go and look at Fury's face in the first fight. It's almost identical actually to the second fight. Go and look at the pictures. It's all red and marked and whatnot. Go and look at the pictures after this last fight. It's all red and marked. The difference is he was taking the shots. What Fury even said, yeah, I took some good shots, but I've never really banked on the whole weight thing. But it's different people. Different people's genetics interact differently. And the bottom line is Fury took the shots. The same shots that he wasn't taking before, he took them. And John Fury's dad knew him best. John Fury's dad came out and said, we're in there with Wallin, and that's what made me think he was shot. And you got to be, if you're a realist, if you actually think about boxing, if you watch that Wallin performance and you're a boxing, you know something about boxing, you know there's something not right with Fury. Now, I thought it was shot. As it turns out, it's more likely now just to be weight. Weight was the difference. All I knew is it was something not right. There's something not right for you to be in there with Wallin, proper, and not have it taken no effect. For some reason, you Fury fans thought that was an acceptable performance. I didn't. Now, for example, put Fury of tonight in there with Wallin. What do you think happens? Wallin's out of there in 1 round. Half a round. Done. Big, stiff, hard 1-2s. And that's the point. Fury came in there and executed the game plan and believed in himself. He used that gypsy belief to believe in himself well and truly. Wilder, where was all this anointed by godness? Did you see that in the ring tonight? Now you can say, oh well, he got clocked in the ear, which he did, and that changed the fight. But before that, at the very start of the fight, Wilder, Mr. Anointed by this, that, the other, he didn't dominate anything, and he was meant to be the bully. And this is often what happens when you have that whole bully thing going on. Same with Triple G. In that second fight with Canelo, Canelo came out and took the centre of the ring. And Triple G was the one running around the place backwards. You can put this is how you beat bully fighters. You put it on them. And Fury said it Fury was saying it. And to be fair, this for me was the ultimate psychological game by Fury, because Fury, for so many years, Fury has said he's going to do something and then never do it. This was actually the first time Fury said he's going to go in there for the KO, and he actually go in there for the KO. And unfortunately, Wilder got caught lacking. And that's why you should always prepare for the worst. Always assume your opponent's going to do everything. Michael Phelps talks about this. I know swimming's a different sport, but still, Michael Phelps talks about preparing for every single... Like as an example, in swimming you wear goggles, obviously, to protect your eyes, and his trainer would sometimes put a hole in his goggles so that it'd fill it with water, as an example, so that he'd get used to swimming, not being able to see. Just little things. Ultimately, so when it comes to the big event, you're prepared for everything. Wilder tonight was not prepared for everything. He was prepared to stand there, nice and heavy, and tee off. That was it. That was it. He was. And the minute that didn't work out, i.e. the first round, he lost every round. And not only that, he got bullied in every round as well. Bullied. And Fury just too big, too heavy, and he did it perfectly. Now I'm going to do... There's so much to talk about here. The referee was in my opinion, biased, massively biased, if not corrupt. Completely. Yeah. Referee was stepping in, giving Wilder 20 seconds. It took a point from Fury. Now, Fury in the post-fight press conference said that, oh, yeah, well, I don't really blame you. Yeah, I think that's because you've won, but if you'd have lost, trust me, it would have been an issue. That referee was no good, Kenny Bayless. Get him out of there. Anytime there was any inside action, I don't get it. I think that boxing fights need to be more like MMA fights. When you're in a clinch, work. The referee should be telling the fighters to work out. Not just the minute they touch each other split. That's where Fury's best work gets done. The crazy thing is, we didn't even get to see Fury start winging them winging shots to the body. Because you know what we always talked about on this channel. The minute someone gets close to Wilder, his earmuffs goes on. And that's when I was waiting for Fury 1, 2, 3... either uppercuts or hooks, or a mixture of both, all to the body. And to be fair, I think Fury put him down with a hook to the body as an example, but Kenny Bayless didn't even imagine, what we saw tonight was domination. It was actually only half of the domination we should have got. Number one, because the fight was stopped before a clean finish, and number two, because the referee wouldn't let Fury actually go to work. But even so, Fury did the best he could in terms of weighing on Wilder. Weighed all over him. It was beautiful to see, especially when I'd been talking about this stuff before, and people are coming telling me that all these people. I've admitted it. I've been in a boxing gym once. Never spoken to a trainer before. However, what I've done is I've studied boxing in other ways on my own. And yet all these people, I've been in boxing since 40 years. I haven't had one person on YouTube. The only person I've heard is me and John Fury, who are the ones who are saying he needs to go in there, chin down, hands up, and get stuck in on Wilder. Pressure Wilder. Not sit at mid-range and play what? What was he going to do there? Play what? Whack-a-mole? Let's see if I can not get knocked out. That's what that game's called. And if you look at the Ortiz fight, Ortiz not even set the blueprint, but look all the time, the first 4 rounds, Wilder didn't know what he was doing. And Ortiz wasn't even that busy. Fury came out and got straight on top of him. Straight on top of him. Anyway, before I go, I want to mention a few more things. So yeah, the weight was enabled him to take shots, and it enabled him to hit harder. Fury hit Wilder on the head, and Wilder just dropped. And Wilder thought he didn't know what happened. That first knockdown, he didn't have a clue what happened. It reminded me of the same shot that KSI hit Logan Paul with. The difference is, this is obviously heavyweight boxing, and this shot was a lot cleaner. Hit Wilder kind of on the, I think that was that the one that busted his ear? I'm not sure, either way. Hit him on the head, and he dropped like a sack of potatoes. And now we know why Wilder puts his earmuffs on. I mean, that's not rocket science. I've already talked about it. Look at Wilder's genetic lineage. His chin is flawed. His brother literally cannot hold a shot. It's not me taking the mic. I'm being serious. You've seen it. His brother got knocked, like, literally spark out by a jab. And it wasn't a jab from Mike Tyson. It was a jab from anyone no one's ever heard of before. This is the chin he's got. He cannot afford to be touched at all. And let's be real now. Even though I really respect Fury's performance, Fury's only been training at the Kronk 7 weeks, you know. So it's not like Fury's all of a sudden turned from a pillow fister to a massive puncher. He's still got loads of gains to be had. He's still, in my opinion, arguably, Fury's still pillow fisted at this point. Now, 6 months, a year from now of Kronk training, we might be, see what I mean? We might be in a different position. I don't believe punches are born. I don't believe that. I believe you can train them, absolutely. You can train people to a point where you can get the knockout, is what I'm saying, I believe. And look at Fury. If Fury hasn't proved that, I don't know what. Because under Ben Davidson, Fury couldn't stop Pianetta, could he not? Is that not true? Under Ben Davidson, Fury couldn't stop Pianetta. And he was throwing so many shots, couldn't stop him. But then, 7 weeks with the Kronk, he demolishes Wilder. If that doesn't prove that being born with stuff is nothing to do with nothing, I don't know what does. Anyway, the next part I want to talk about. Yeah, only spent 7 weeks with Kronk, so he's going to have a lot of upside now. But one thing I do want him to do going forward is I do want him to keep that. What made this so good was that I've talked about this from AJ's point of view, is mixing it up. This was Fury putting it all together. He didn't just come in, chin down, hands up, which is what he did in the Cunningham fight. In this fight, he also applied the feint. He was faint. He fainted him. Wilder didn't know what to do. All that Wilder knew to do is literally to cocoon. Fury fainted and bullied Wilder into a cocoon against the ropes. The only place Wilder felt safe was the least safe place in the ring. But the reason Wilder felt safe in the least safe place in the ring, i.e. the ropes, was because that was the furthest place away he could be from Fury. Wilder wanted to be as far away from Fury as he could. And that so happened to be the worst place. But that's what happens when you're in there with someone you don't want to be. He didn't want to be in there anymore. He didn't. That's what... If Wilder wanted to be in there, for example, to be fair to Triple G, when Triple G and Canelo fought the second time, you didn't see Triple G backed up against the ropes 24/7. Yeah, he was more boxy, but he still was happy to trade a few times. That wasn't Wilder. Wilder was never happy to trade. Wilder spent all the fight back literally against the ropes. He wanted out of there. Now, don't get me wrong. He didn't blatantly, well, we can argue the toss whether he quit or not, but he didn't blatantly quit. But by looking at his body language, he didn't want to be in there. He didn't want to trade with Fury. He didn't want to mix it up, did he? He didn't want to go blow for blow. He wanted, like normal, to go in there, Fury to run away from him, and him to have loads of time to breathe, loads of time to airy-fairy and work out how to throw his right hand. That's what he wanted, and that's what most opponents give him. Most opponents are happy to sit back and let him just coast through the rounds and then get his shot off. Not tonight for Josephine. He got 7 rounds and he just got whooped. He didn't get... I've heard people talking about, I had Wilder winning the first 2 rounds. He didn't win a round. Not even close to winning a round. Are you joking? He did nothing in any of the rounds. Nothing in any of them. And people saying, oh, he looked different. Wilder was fine. He was absolutely fine. And it's shocking after the fight he's talking about, oh, I had a bad camp. No, you didn't have a bad camp. Your camp was fine and perfect. And you can just tell, because the difference is... Well, I'm not even talking about the difference. In fact, let me say that for a different video. This is this here is just a reaction to the fight. Let me go through my other notes here. So it's going to be a long one, but I might split up into two. Anyway, that's it. Wilder's nerves and swinging his right hand. Wilder, in the first fight, and I made videos on this, Wilder, after the first fight, talked about his nerves. He talked about how nerves got on top of him, and he couldn't hold his nerves, and he choked, and that had him overreaching his right hand. And what did we see tonight? Every right hand Wilder threw, it was a looping right hand. It was nothing like the right hand that he threw against Ortiz. It was nothing like the right hand that he threw against Brazil. And this just proves that, I'm sorry guys, I talk about these elite athletes like Anthony Joshua who can perform under, look at the pressure. He came back, no comeback fights, no nothing, came straight back and performed. Boxed away, he never knew he could box before, did a complete new style. People like that, people like Michael Phelps, people like Usain Bolt who were able to get the job done. Wilder, unfortunately, Floyd Mayweather, Wilder, unfortunately, is not one of these individuals. Under the lights, he becomes, just look at the performance. He becomes his worst self. Or he does not raise himself up. However, what the inverse of that, what we learned that Fury is in that category. Fury is in that category of an AJ, of a Michael Phelps, of a Usain Bolt, of a Floyd Mayweather. He upped his game under the lights, and people, to be fair, put my hands in the air. People who were saying to me, "Oh, YB is not shot. Fury just performs better under the lights. He performs better under big fights." I'll put my hands in there and say, yeah, it was a bit wrong there. And I've already said I was wrong about him being shot. He's clearly not shot. All I knew is there was something clearly wrong on October in against Wallin, and it wasn't just a cut. That wasn't a cut problem. Like John Fury said, it was to do with the weight, and he was hitting like a kitten. And I thought that I associated that with shot nuts, but that's my fault anyway. The point is, what were we saying? Wilder can't handle his nerves. He ain't got the bottle. He hasn't got the bottle for this level of boxing, and that also explains why, when it comes to signing fights to fight AJ, he didn't really want it. And the only reason he fought Fury was because he thought he was fighting a man with pillow fists and a man who's going to just run away from him. That's why. And it'll be very interesting actually to see if Wilder will take the immediate rematch, because now he's thinking, wait there a minute. Well, he's going to be thinking, wait there a minute. Well, Fury had 7 weeks in the cronk. He knows he's got my number, and he's going to have another 6 months in the cronk. Do I really want that now? Because now I'm coming up against someone who's not an equivalent of AJ, but on that same kind of level. That same Dillian Whyte AJ level. Do I really want that? And we're going to find out about Wilder's minerals. I've got a feeling he's not going to want it. I've got a feeling they're going to come out and say there's some sort of injury which has put him out for a year, and unfortunately that's too long. That's what I think is going to happen. And he's going to go back fighting Ortiz for a third time. And I think he might just sail off into obscurity now. I don't think he's going to, like a Naseem Hamed. I can see one of them ones happening, because Naseem Hamed spoke similarly to, I think I might have even taken this from Hatman, from Gasman. Hatman said, I think today, that Naseem Hamed, he talked about how God would never let him lose and whatnot, and Wilder said the same sort of thing. And sometimes these fighters who think they're anointed and whatnot, and it turns out you're not, we'll see how he comes back, and if he does come back, I'll give him his credit. I'm just saying. And listen, if he comes back, it's another story whether he can win anyway, with his limited boxing skills. He proved he can't fight on the inside. I did a video talking about how it looks like he's turning shots over. Once again, people looking good in the pads and being good in the ring, two different worlds, it seems. 2 different worlds. But Wilder, unfortunately, is a confirmed choker. He said, oh, it was my first time, I choked. Second time came along and he's choked again. His right hand, he was winging it. It was really loopy. There was no shortness on it at all. And because it was loopy, you'll notice that Fury was able to just duck his neck a bit every time. Every time Wilder threw his right hand, Fury just ducked his neck, and it went right over it. Or ended up not connecting properly. And that's Wilder's fault for not being able to control his nerves. And people say Wilder looked funny. It was nerves. That's what made him look funny. That's what the common denominator is here. The 2 times it ain't looked quite right, and I've done another video on it where we talked about Wilder's magical power, which never can work when he's in there with a high level opponent. It's embarrassing. You have people like Lennox Lewis talking about, oh, Wilder's the goat of all time and all this, that, the other. Wait there a minute. The goat of all time, of the greatest punching heavyweight. You what? The 3 times he's been in there with world championship level people. Bermane Stiverne 1, Fury 1, Fury 2. The 3 times he's been in there with actual world level world champions, he ain't been able to knock them out. And in fact, he just got stopped. This man has not got world level power. World level power at a minimum, or all-time great power at a minimum, would have required him to have knocked Fury out at least one of the 2 times they've fought. They've fought 2 times now. How many excuses do you want to give him? This was his first world level opponent, and he couldn't finish him. And you want to talk about giving him GOAT power when you've got people like Mike Tyson who stops genuinely nil champions in 1 or 2 rounds coldly. No rematches. Anyway, that's that part. Next thing. I still think Fury can make more improvements, but you know what? I've talked for long enough. We'll talk about them in a separate video. The last thing I'll say is, and I want to emphasise this, everyone said Fury should run. Everyone said Fury should run. Not enough people. I'm not even looking for credit. I'm just saying, what happened to that? Oh, Fury needs to run around. Oh, Fury needs to box and all this kind of goofy stuff. 6'9", 205 centimeters, 270 pounds of inside fightingness. And the scary thing is tonight, I think the sad thing for boxing tonight is we didn't even get to see the inside fightingness, really. That left hook to the body put him clean down, didn't it? Nice left hook, whipped the left hook in. I would have loved a bit more. I would have loved to have seen Kenny Bayless allow what, because Fury was just about to get to work, and then Kenny Bayless would come in and stop. I would love to have seen, because Fury does this really good thing where he puts 3 uppercuts together to the body. He goes 1, 2, 3, or he does 1, 2 hook on the end, all to the body. I was waiting for that, because when Wilder gets on the inside, he just puts his earmuffs on. And he assumed that he could take shots to the body, which is fine when you're fighting Ortiz, a million-year-old man who ain't got no power. It's not fine when you're fighting Fury, 270, under the cronk. Clearly not. That's why you got put down to a body shot. And it's lucky Kenny Bayless saved you from even more embarrassment. And the fight would have been stopped cleanly if it wasn't for Kenny Bayless. Number 1, stopping it. And the stoppage, to be fair, that's another thing to be talked about. I think I completely agree with it. People are saying, Jay Diaz is saying, oh, it shouldn't have happened. This is the last thing I'll say is, this fight to me, the way Wilder was looking, Wilder had blood spurting out of his ear. Do you know where your eardrums are attached to? Your eardrums are attached to your brain. Are you stupid? I didn't hear any of his corner say, Wilder, are you okay? Not once. It was an awful performance by them. Similar, I'm not being funny, similar to AJ's corner, if we're truthful, in that June 1st fight. If my fighter has blood spurting out of his ear and he's performing like that, I'm getting him out of there. Thank God for Mark Breland. This Jay Diaz talking about, oh, with me and Breland are gonna have to have a chat. A chat? He could have saved your fighter's life. I'm not being funny, seriously. This, to me, the way Wilder was boxing towards the end, look, it reminded me of Adonis Stevenson. That's the way it looked. That's the way it looked like it was going to me. And you got to remember, Adonis Stevenson got put in that position at 175. We're talking Fury another 100 pounds heavier, which means that it don't take us, if a 175er can put you in that sort of situation, it doesn't take as much as that from someone like Fury, does it? And then you want to talk about carrying on and going out as a champion. People need to be smart now, especially trainers. It's one thing fighters saying that. All fighters are going to say that. But as a trainer, you trainers have got to start looking out for people, man, because it's not funny. Your fighter's got blood spurting out of his ear. Now, it's one thing if blood's spurting out of his ear and he's doing well. He's completely a shell of himself, blood spurting out of his ear. And you're talking about you wanting to go out on his back? It's sickening. Anyway, a beautiful performance from Fury. I want to finish off by saying, hands in the air, Fury is not shot. However, I will caveat that with, to be fair to myself, the weight was the issue. Clearly, there was some issue. I wasn't wrong completely. There was some issue against Wallin. That was not a Fury. That was not a normal Fury against Wallin. Yeah, let's get that straight. Not even once. But he's not shot. A beautiful performance, a mauling performance. However, one thing I don't want to. You know what? Let me not even say that. Let's keep it. I was about to start talking about AJ, but this video's gone for long enough. Fury, wicked performance, and on this basis, he's got me back on side now. On this basis, I'm 80% of the way back on side, assuming that he's gonna fight AJ. I'm 80% back on side now. Not saying I'm backing him over AJ. I'm just saying that seeing the gypsy in him, I got tired. The reason me and him fell out of love, I got tired of seeing him run around the place. This one, people say, oh, he beat Vlad. I don't really think he beat Vlad. You beat Wilder tonight. You beat Wilder tonight. See what I'm saying? Maybe that's just maybe I'm a bit of a biased or a corrupt boxing fan, but that's what I call what we saw tonight was beating. That there was a schooling. When people say, "Oh, Fury schooled Vlad," or Fury schooled Wilder the first time, nah, I'm sorry, no, that's not a schooling. What happened tonight was a schooling, a pure schooling. Yeah, that was a demolition job, and that's what greats do. That was an all-time great performance there. Won every round and stopped him, no doubt. Hats off to him. 10 out of 10 in my opinion. In fact, the only way he could have potentially, I think, oh yeah, that's the last thing. I'm sorry, I've rambled on for ages, but the last thing I will say is, one thing I noticed that I think Fury could tighten up a bit on, but this will come, I think, with the Kronk training potentially. I do think he could have picked his shots a bit better. I think a few times he hurt Wilder with a 1-2, and he kind of started getting on top of himself, or getting a bit too close to Wilder, and kind of smothering his work. I wanted Fury to kind of step in with a 1-2, then take a little half step out and have a look and see what's there. See what I mean? And then pick some shots. I felt like Fury was stepping in with a 1-2, being on top of Wilder, and then just not really getting anything sufficient off, or he was just throwing arm shots again. But that will come with time. Hopefully, I want to see him with that kind of just picking shots a bit better. Then again, perhaps from Fury's point of view, maybe after stepping in with a 1-2, maybe he didn't want to take a half step out, because then what do we know? That would have put him in danger of Wilder counterpunch in his own right hand. So I can understand both things, but I do think for sure Fury could have potentially picked a few. You know me, I love diggers. I love people to dig shots, and I do feel that, yeah, Fury's 1-2 was digging for sure, but the follow-up shots after it, a lot of them were a bit slappy for me. But I think this is we're talking about. I've always talked about perfection. When I talk about AJ, I talk about perfecting performances. If Fury wants, in my opinion, to perfect his performance next time, when you get Wilder hurt, just take a little. And obviously, and you got to remember, we're talking about milliseconds here. Take a few milliseconds. Look what's going on. Look where Wilder is, and you don't always have to go to the head. Dig to the body, but to be fair to Fury, put him down with a body shot. I'm just saying, I do think he could have picked a few shots a bit better and perhaps set some things up. Like, for example, he could have hit Wilder with a 1-2, and then just peppered 5 jabs at once, and then stuck a really stiff right hand. Maybe not 5, maybe 2. 1-2, touch, wham. Do you know what I mean? I didn't see that. I didn't see any of that from Fury tonight. But these are things that we can work on. But man, hats off to Fury, man. Great performance, and I'm just happy he delivered. I did say in my pre-fight stuff, if this man don't go in there and do what he said he's going to do, I'm done. But he did. And hats off to him. 10 out of 10. Well, I'll give him 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 because of the things I mentioned. But in terms of commitment and that spirit, 10 out of 10, no doubt.